This video will unmask the truth behind the mark of the beast. The mark of the beast was mentioned in the Bible in the book of Revelation of Apostle John. A vision he saw during his exile in the island of Patmos. Revelation, the last book of the Bible, pictures out and described the last days events and how the closing of the earth's history would be, and that includes the mark of the beast. The mark of the beast was written particularly in Revelation chapter 13. But before we identify what the mark of the beast is, let us first identify who the beast is. The identity of the beast has references in the book of Daniel chapter 7 and Revelation chapter 13. So basically, our study focuses on these two books, chapter 7 and 13 respectively. By the way, beast represents kingdom. Let us make it clear that the word beast in Daniel 7 and Revelation 13 means a kingdom who ruled and will rule the earth. There are 4 beasts mentioned in Daniel 7. The first was like a lion. It had the wings of an eagle. I watched until its wings were torn off, and it was lifted from the ground, so that it stood on 2 feet like a human being, and the mind of a human was given to it. Daniel 7:4. The first beast or kingdom is Babylon. And there before me was a second beast, which looked like a bear. It was raised up on one of its sides, and it had 3 ribs in its mouth between its teeth. It was told, "Get up and eat your fill of flesh." Daniel 7:5. The second beast or kingdom is Medo-Persia. After that, I looked, and there before me was another beast, one that looked like a leopard, and on its back it had 4 wings like those of a bird. The beast had 4 heads, and it was given authority to rule. Daniel 7:6. The third beast or kingdom is Greece. After that, in my vision, at night I looked, and there before me was a 4th beast, terrifying and frightening, and very powerful. It had large iron teeth. It crushed and devoured its victims, and trampled underfoot whatever was left. It was different from all the former beasts, and it had 10 horns. Daniel 7:7. Let us discover who this 4th beast is. This is the beast mentioned in Revelation 13, being the beast who is currently in power. This is the last beast or kingdom who will rule the earth before the second coming of Jesus Christ. In this video, we will focus on the 4th beast, the beast that was described in Revelation 13. The description of the beast. There are 12 identifying descriptions of the 4th beast according to Revelation 13. First, it rises from the sea, verse 1. Second, having 7 heads and 10 horns, verse 1. Third, it is the composite of the 4 beasts in Daniel chapter 7, verse 2. Fourth, the dragon gives it power and authority, verse 2. Fifth, it receives a deadly wound, verse 3. Sixth, its deadly wound was healed, verse 3. Seventh, it is a strong political power, verse 3 and 7. Eighth, it is a strong religious power, verse 3 and 8. Ninth, it is guilty of blasphemy, verses 1, 5, and 6. Tenth, it wars with and overcomes the saints, verse 7. 11th, it rules for 42 months, verse 5. It has a mysterious number, 666, verse 18. Do others have their own interpretations and find discrepancies based on their studies on history? They claim that there are errors in the interpretation of the 5th, 6th, and 11th descriptions of the beast, which is, it receives the deadly wound, and the deadly wound was healed, and the 42 months period which the beast has ruled. But the history remains its stand. in backing up the description of the beast in Revelation 13. It is clear that the wound represents the end of or the stoppage of its power. It is understood that the time the wound was inflicted to the beast's power represents the temporary end of its power, and the wound being healed represents the time the beast has recovered its power. The time the beast first gained its power was the start of the 42 months period. The 42 months period is interpreted as 1,260 days based on the Jewish calendar. And when you talk about days in the Bible prophecy, one day is equivalent to 1 year. Therefore, 1,260 days in the Bible prophecy is equivalent to 1,260 years. The fourth beast first gained its power was in 538 AD. This is the start of the 1,260 years rule of Rome. It is true that the defeat of Witiges and his goats before Rome in 538 AD was not the full end of the Gothic monarchy in Italy, but it was the beginning of its downfall, and so opened the way for the development of the papacy. And the wound that was inflicted on the beast in verse 14 tells us that the wound caused by a sword. A sword represents war. Through a war, the beast was wounded. Wounded means an end of power. But a stroke of the sword certainly means an act of war. For even today, when swords are much less used than formerly, the sword is still the most prominent symbol of war. And certainly, the deposing of the Pope, the abolition of the papal government, and the decreeing of a republic in the city of Rome by the French in 1798 were acts of war. The consummation of the deadly wound administered to the papal system. In 1798, the Rome or the papacy was removed from its power, which symbolizes a wound. Now, if you look at closely at the time Rome or papacy first gained its power in 538 AD, and the time the Rome or papacy was wounded or its power had ended on 1798, that period is in total of 1,260 years. Exactly the same length of time Apostle John saw in his vision, which is 42 months, equivalent to 1,260 years in the Bible prophetic interpretation. This only proves that the 42 months or 1,260 years fits in with the prophecy of Apostle John in which the beast was wounded. From that day in 1798, the Pope was not a king until the signing of the Concordat with Italy, February 11, 1929, when Pope Pius XI appeared on the upper bay of balconies St. Peter, and hundreds of voices from the street below joined in the jubilant cry, "Viva it! Viva Papari! Viva it! Papari! Long live the Pope King!" Now he is again, in very truth, a real king. After 131 years, the wound was healed through the signing of the Concordat or the Lateran Treaty. Mussolini and Pope Pius XI agreed to the Lateran Treaty in 1929. The beast power was back to Rome, the fourth beast, and it was described in Revelation 13:3. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. And on the second description of the beast was, it has 10 horns and 7 heads. After that, In my vision at night, I looked, and there before me was a fourth beast, terrifying and frightening, and very powerful. It had a large iron teeth. It crushed and devoured its victims, and trampled underfoot whatever was left. It was different from all the former beasts, and it had 10 horns. While I was thinking about the horns, there before me was another horn, a little one, which came up among them, and the 3 of the first horns were uprooted before it. This horn had eyes like the eyes of a human being, and a mouth that spoke boastfully. Daniel 7:7-8. Horn represents kingdom. The 10 kingdoms were Alemanni, Franks, Burgundians, Suevi, Visigoths, Anglo-Saxons, Lombards, Heruli, Ostrogoths, and Vandals. Alemanni, which is Germany now. Second, Franks, which is France now. Third, Burgundians, which is Switzerland now. Fourth, Suevi, which is Portugal now. Fifth, Visigoths, which is Spain now. Sixth, Anglo-Saxons, which is England now. Seventh, Lombards, which is Italy now. And the 3 uprooted kingdoms by Rome or the papacy were Heruli, Ostrogoths, and Vandals. The history of these kingdoms really proves the prophecy was right. Aside from the descriptions in Revelation 13, we also have a significant description of the beast found in Daniel chapter 7 verse 25. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws. And they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time. I will emphasize on change times and laws. Indeed, this fourth beast, Rome, through the papacy changed times and laws by removing the second commandment in the 10 commandments, which is, Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Exodus 24. Obviously, because they have graven images like Santo Niño, other graven images of their saints, and even graven images of Mary. Then they divided the 10th commandment into 2 just to make the 10 commandments remain 10. But the most significant change that they made was the 4th commandment, which is to remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days thou shalt labor and do all thy work, but the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the 7th day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Exodus 20:8-11. The 4th and the last beast, Rome or papacy, represent the Roman Catholic Church. They changed the Sabbath day from the 7th day of the week, which is Saturday, to the 1st day of the week, which is Sunday, in contrary to the 4th commandment, which is the 7th day of the week or Saturday. Roman Catholic Church altered the 10 commandments by eliminating the 2nd commandment and transferring the holiness of God's 7th day from Sabbath to Sunday. All of the descriptions fits in and points out to Rome or the Papal Rome as a system. You can research and study more on the history of Rome and its present power. Now, We already identify who the fourth beast is, no other than the room. It is not referred to a person or the people under it, but to the system of room or papacy has. It is so clear now that the fourth beast in Daniel 7 and the beast in Revelation 13 is Rome or the papacy. The beast or the kingdom who will enforce the mark of the beast is Rome or the papacy, a kingdom located in Rome, particularly the Vatican. Now we are going to identify what is the mark of the beast. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. Revelation 13:16-18. The descriptions of the mark of the beast are: first, it will be marked in the right hand or in their foreheads. Second, nobody can buy or sell without the mark of the name of the beast or the number of his name. Third, the number of the mark of the beast is 666, which is equivalent to 666. First, the forehead represents the mind. Hebrews 10:16. A person will be marked in the forehead by a decision to keep Sunday as a holiday. The hand is a symbol of work. Ecclesiastes 9:10. A person will be marked in the hand by working on God's holy Sabbath or by going along with Sunday laws for practical reasons, job, family, etc. The sign or mark for either God or the beast will be invisible to people. You will, in essence, mark yourself by accepting either God's mark, the Sabbath, or the beast mark, Sunday. Though invisible to men, God will know who has which mark. But God's truth stands firm like a foundation stone, with this inscription: The Lord knows those who are His, and all who belongs to the Lord must turn away from evil. 2 Timothy 2:19. Second, anyone without the mark of the beast will be prohibited to buy or sell, but with the mark, it will enable you to buy or sell. And one way that this will be enforced is through a cashless society. It is much easier to enforce by using the mark as the mode of payment and not by cash. Cash will be removed as a way of payment. Today, the world is heading to that direction. In fact, in Sweden, it is increasingly common to see no cash accepted signs across the country, slamming the door to those that don't use alternative payment methods. In only 4 years, cash payments dropped from 63% to 25%, an Insight Intelligence survey. With the coronavirus, there are efforts to remove cash payments, pointing out that cash is a potent carrier of the virus. They will take advantage of the situation, pointing out that using cash brings inconvenience on the part of the seller because they end up washing or applying sanitizer every time they receive cash as payment. They will institute the mark of the beast in an effort to exercise total economic and political control. Third, the number of the beast is 666. If you worship the beast, you get the mark of the beast. The mark of the beast will occur when a national Sunday law is enacted. This law, they teach, will require everyone to respect Sunday as a holiday. The national Sunday law will first be enforced in the United States of America. being the second beast, the lamb-like beast in Revelation 13. The enactment of national Sunday law in the United States will usher in time of trouble for the whole world. There will be persecutions among people who will not accept the mark of the beast. The implementation of the mark of the beast will happen before the 7 last plagues, or known as the wrath of God, will fall on earth. I saw in heaven another great and marvelous sign, 7 angels with the 7 last plagues. Last, because with them God's wrath is completed. Revelation 15:1. Then a third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if anyone worships the beast and his image, and receives his mark on his forehead or in his hand, he himself shall also drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out full strength into the cup of his indignation. He shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascends forever and ever, and they have no rest day or night, who worship the beast and his image, and whoever receives the mark of his name. Revelation 14:9-12. What are the consequences of having the mark of the beast? According to Revelation 16, they will suffer the 7 last plagues or the wrath of God. The first plague is noisome and grievous sore upon the men. Verse 2. The second plague is the sea became as the blood of a dead man, and every living soul died in the sea. Verse 3. The third plague is the rivers and fountains of waters, and they became blood. Verse 4. The fourth plague is a scorching heat of the sun. The fifth plague is the kingdom was full of darkness, and they gnawed their tongues for pain. The sixth plague is the great river Euphrates, and the water thereof was dried up, and there was the battle of Armageddon. And the seventh and last plague is a vial into the air, and voices and thunders and lightnings, and there was a great earthquake, such as was not since men were upon the earth, so mighty an earthquake and so great. All the people who receive the mark of the beast will suffer all of these 7 last plagues. Oh, how terrible would that be! Meanwhile, the people without the mark of the beast will suffer persecutions from the earthly authority, the system in place on the beast, the Rome or the papacy. There will be a death decree, or whoever does not worship the beast, or whoever does not receive the mark of the beast. There are only 2 sides, the beast or the side of God. There are no in-betweens. You will really have to make a choice right now. Don't wait for the last days prophecies to be fulfilled, or else you might get caught unprepared to refuse the mark of the beast. In the side of God, it is based on freedom of choice. But on the side of the beast, it is based on force. It will be enforced. The people who will experience the enforcement of this mark of the beast are the ones who are alive during the time of the implementation of the national Sunday law. So obviously, the people who will not be alive at that time will not go through the period of the enforcement of the mark of the beast. But it doesn't mean that you don't have to make a choice between God and the beast, because our hearts will determine which side are we. The bottom line is that the marking of the mark of the beast is just superficial. But where the mark truly resides is in our hearts, whether we have the mark of God or the mark of the beast. We cannot just merely say no and refuse the mark of the beast by just knowing the truth about the mark of the beast. Because the mark resides in our hearts, and God knows which side are we.